Hey everyone, how's it going? Good to see you all back in the chat. Sorry I'm a little bit late today. Hopefully everything is very, very well. Already seeing people in the chat. Hello. Sammy, Wayne already in there as well. Nixie, Dan as well. Great to see you all. Hope you're all good. Hope your game week 1 went well. Mine didn't particularly, but that's fine. It's all right. It's just one game week. We can get over that quickly, can't we? Let's go to the live screen straight away. There's my team for game week 2. So today, it'll be a bit more relaxed than last week, I think, because last week was stressing about the deadline. We are obviously all looking at locking in our teams ahead of game week 1, and we had all of the decisions to make in the entire world. This week, things do get a bit more simple. We've only got one transfer to use, unless you're free hitting, unless you're wildcarding, of course. You can look at free hitting, you can look at wildcarding, or you can look at taking a hit. But I think for a lot of us, it will be a little bit more simple this week. So I don't expect this stream to go on quite as long, but what this does give us an opportunity to do, hopefully, is answer as many of your questions as possible, any of your dilemmas, run through all of them, and hopefully we can have a bit of fun along the way. I've got the games to play. I've got my differentials for the week as well. I've picked out 3 differentials. So hopefully we can have a lot of fun today. But in the meantime, how are we all? How did you get on in game week 1? Did you score better than me? I'm assuming you did. 53 points for me, not a great start. But honestly, I'm pretty unbothered by it. I don't think it's a massive problem. I think 53 is all right. 56 from Patrick in the chat. I think there's a lot of managers around the sort of 50s area. I wouldn't be overly concerned even if you're beneath that as well. At the end of the day, it's one game week. We've got another 37 to go. We've effectively gone through around 2.5% of the season, I think. So it's not too problematic. Sammy in the chat with 45, 64 in there, 55 for Dan, 60 from Manish. We've got some good starters. Anyone use a chip, by the way? Did anyone use bench boost in game week 1 and get it off to a successful start? My podcast co-host used bench boost in game week 1, and I think he got like 14 points on his bench boost, so not a bad one. Nixie scored 54. Good to see you again in the chat, Nixie. Yeah, 53 for me. Let's have a look at my team. I'll go back to last week, actually, because I'm on this week. Not the greatest start ever in FPL, but it's all right. We take these. I think 4.8 game week rank. You'll get plenty of these this season. That's about halfway up. I'm not too worried, especially without using a chip as well. I think a lot of people ahead have used chips. And I don't think you'll see too many game weeks where the majority of premiums blank. So obviously Haaland and Salah both returned. Outside of that, most of the premiums were pretty terrible this week. Fernandes didn't, Palmer didn't, Wirtz as well. We can talk about Wirtz if people own him. A few others. Watkins, of course, didn't return either. Gyökeres got hooked early. Didn't look too brilliant against Man United either. But yeah, not great on the premiums this week, but these players do tend to perform pretty well, so it should all balance out, and I wouldn't be surprised to see all of them, or if not most of them, return in the next couple of game weeks. So I wouldn't be panicking just yet, unless you are really in a spot of bother after game week 1. 66 no chip in the chat as well. Very good start from Henry. Nixie says, can't believe my mate bench boosted and got 100. That must be top couple of K in the world on 100. That is ridiculous. Very, very good performance from your mate. Make sure he's tuning in, or they're tuning in as well. Not that they need my advice if they're already 47 points ahead of me. Maybe I need them on the channel. 52 from Eman with the Cowper. Clean sheet denied. Yeah, that was really annoying, wasn't it? That last minute clean sheet wipeout for Brighton. Milenkovic, Sarr, Salah, Wirtz. Yeah, what do we think of Wirtz? That might be a very good first question to ask in the chat. How many of you still own Wirtz? How many of you started with Wirtz? And are you thinking of moving him on already? Is it worth a transfer already? I'm again, my podcast co-host Tom was thinking about moving on Wirtz. My opinion on it is he's probably okay for now. I don't think we need to rush him out. At the end of the day, no one really owned him just for the one game week. It's game weeks 4 and 5 that are next interesting fixtures. So if I go to Salah's fixtures, because obviously same team. Yeah, so Newcastle, Arsenal, not great by any means. After that, Burnley, Everton, Palace, Chelsea, it's fine. I mean, he got 80 odd minutes. It was his Premier League debut. The minutes aren't going to be perfect in game week 1, and with Gravenberch back, I do expect them to be a little bit more solid. Wirtz might not need to perform defensively as much as maybe he would have and drop as deep as he did in the opening day fixture. So, yeah, I think he's probably okay. What else we got in the chat? We got Double Pivot in the chat. Good to see you. Which one of the Double Pivot is in the chat? That is the question, because there are 2 of you. Let me know. I reckon, I don't know. Could be either of you, actually. But yeah, let me know. Sammy says, got brainwashed into going no Salah, no Haaland. I mean, look, it's not a great start, but you went with it for a reason, and the reason is because all of the other players under that price point, you can get a lot more value for money. It just so happens that everyone all at once kind of blanked. I'm getting a couple of warnings on the stream saying the stream's lagging a little bit. Let me know in the comments below whether or not there's any issues. It's saying no drop frame, so hopefully I'm okay. But yeah, keep me on top of things. If it's dropping out, I'll try and fix it if that's the case. I think it's okay, but let me know. Yeah, no Haaland, no Salah. I mean, it's not gone well in game week 1, has it? But I think long term, there's still an angle there. They're going to return. They're going to do pretty well. But I guess the long term plan is that the sub premiums, you can stock more of them in your side, and possibly, therefore, over time, balance it out. It just so happens that game week 1 was pretty brutal for it, that none of those sub-premiums did very well, and at the same time, Haaland and Salah both did all right. So, yeah, it's a rough start, but I wouldn't worry too much. I wouldn't panic too much just yet. Is it worth a transfer out Watkins for Gyökeres if putting the cap on him? Good question, Patrick. I would probably... Well, I guess it always depends. I hate saying it depends, but it does always depend on what the rest of your side is. If you've got another decent captaincy option, so in that I would include Haaland, Salah, Saka, Palmer even as well. I know we'll talk about Palmer in a moment. But any of those, the expected points in terms of all of their routes to points are fairly similar to Gyökeres this game week. Even if the fixture is very good for Gyökeres, if you've got any of those others, I would say it's probably not worth the transfer away from Watkins, because Watkins is still a great pick. Away at Brentford, Brentford looked awful in game week 1, and long term, let's go to Watkins' fixtures long term as well. As you'll see here, we're pretty close to a very good run here. So Brentford, Palace isn't easy, Everton's not easy, but as a cluster of 7 or 8 game weeks, in that they've got 2 promoted sides. They've got Brentford away from home, who Watkins has a great record against. I think it's absolutely fine. I mean, who knows? He might even be on penalties as well. I mean, it's not guaranteed, but he could be. And if you move away from Watkins to go with Gyökeres' minutes aren't like completely set in stone guaranteed. He came off fairly early in game week 1. Yes, it was for Havertz, and Havertz is now injured for quite a while, hence why they're signing Eze so fast. But with that in mind, Marino can play up front. They've played with a false 9 before of Trossard, so if the reason that Gyökeres came off early was less to do with Havertz and more to do with Gyökeres building up match fitness, what's to say he can't get taken off early again? So if you've already got Gyökeres, I think he's fine to look at putting the armband on. His minutes might be okay. It might all work out and it's a good fixture. But I wouldn't be using what is a pretty precious transfer at this point for what is a marginal upside gain, in my view. Obviously, play it your own way, always. But in my view, I would probably leave it. I'm leaving it. I'm not moving on Gyökeres for Watkins this week. So that probably tells you what you need to know. But of course, there are 4.8 million managers ahead of me right now. So if you disagree, then you might just be a better manager than me and go for it. Absolutely, I completely understand that. So I'll scroll back up because the questions are coming in thick and fast. Nixie says, "I'm not panicking. Was like 2 mil after game week 12 last season. Got 10k." That is a great point as well. Honestly, with so many chips as well being played in the first half of the season, with the new balance of the chips, I think. Praz got a lot of heat for it on social media. I think it was fairly badly interpreted by a lot of people. He wasn't saying don't or don't look at your rank, or I won't tell you my rank. All you were saying was it doesn't really matter that much until we get to halfway point, because everyone's going to be on different chip strategies, everyone's going to be on different plans, and it's so highly variable to begin with. So yeah, no panic. Nixie, your point in the chat is completely valid. You can look at your rank for the first few weeks, but I wouldn't panic about it. It's completely fine. Your rank at the end of at the end of the season after game week 38 is the only one that matters. And until that point, it's all about the journey. And as long as you're fairly happy with your side, even right now, even if you're at 7-8 million, I honestly would not panic. You're only 10, 20 points back, and you can make that up in a couple of game weeks. So it's really not a problem. Andrew Barton asks, and this is a very good topical question. I own Eze already. Should I just play him on the off chance and cover him with a should I just play him on the off chance that he starts and cover him with a decent first sub? Well, I'm assuming the off chances that he starts for Arsenal. I would say, considering with Thursday now and the transfer isn't actually official. Obviously, we got the here we go, so it's going through, but it's not official. He might even play tonight for Palace. I think we've got news that he won't play tonight now, or at least not start, but he's still a Palace player. I would say it's very doubtful that Arteta just chucks him straight in. If you own him already, I think it depends who that first sub is, because if that first sub is expected anything over 2 points, I would probably start the first sub. If it's a first sub that you're worried about even starting themselves, or has a terrible fixture, then Eze, I think you could maybe take a bit of a punt on, and maybe he starts, maybe he gets a few minutes off the bench. And if he doesn't play whatsoever, then that first sub comes in either way. So I think it depends who your first sub is. If it's someone that you don't back to get any sort of return, then I think just chance it on Eze, because the upside is there for a player like him, and he might get minutes off the bench. So moving down, a few people saying Wirtz looked pretty good. Bambi said Wirtz looked really good. I think, yeah, I completely agree with your point, Bambi. Get some more time to gel with the team and he will get a lot of points. I don't think it's worth panicking on him just yet. It's one game week of data. And actually, from what we've seen so far, Community Shield and game week 1, I actually thought he was pretty involved. I think he got something like 0.5 XGI in that game, despite what most people were saying in him not being that involved. So if he's not that involved and he's still accumulating half an XG or half an XGI, that's pretty promising. It's a bit like what Bruno did in game week 1 as well, by the way, where everyone thought he had a bit of a stinker. But if you look at the data, he was still involved enough to be getting FPL points, and that's all that matters in this game. So I think he's absolutely fine. 31 points, currently ranked 9 million. Again, I would not panic. Nixie asks, why transfer Wirtz out after one blank? Don't see it. Completely agree. Need 2 transfers. So Joseph in the chat says need 2 transfers to get Haaland in for Palmer next week. Palmer definitely the new Nkunku. Now that is a hell of a shout. I thought Nkunku was the new Palmer last year, so it's reverse now. Palmer is defo the new Nkunku. So I think that might be maybe a little bit strong. I think he's okay. I wouldn't panic on him just yet, but he is on thin ice for me, and that is a cold pun, not quite pun, metaphor, I suppose. Yeah, I'm not exactly excited by what Palmer's been doing in recent matches. Well, in recent months, to be honest. But the fixtures are still pretty good. You've got West Ham, Fulham, Brentford. The next 3 are fine. You could look at maybe moving off game week 5 to game week 8. Those are a few good defences in there. But then by the time you get to game week 9, that is a great little run. You've got the 3 promoted sides in the space of, 6 game weeks. Wolves, Spurs in there as well. That's not bad whatsoever. So for me, he was ideally a long-term hold. But if he keeps playing on the left-hand side of the midfield in that cam area, and he doesn't get the space he's required to get his shots away, then it is a problem. And I would agree that he's worth moving on eventually. But one game week just isn't enough data. And Crystal Palace are a good defence as well. They do keep it tight. Liverpool struggled to break them down at times as well. I wouldn't get too worried about Palmer just yet. If he gives the same performance against West Ham, I think it's worthy of a little bit more panic. So we'll wait and see for me. Okay, so moving down, we've got, should I captain Salah or Watkins? I've got both. So I think for me, I'm currently on Salah, just more routes to points. I know it's a tougher fixture, but if you've got a penalty taker who's guaranteed 90 minutes and Salah is just inevitable, he's like Thanos, he just never stops. Even in games where you never expect him to do anything, he still finds a way. Granted, it's a tough fixture, so that brings him back down to, well, into the conversation with the likes of the Palmers, the Watkins, the Sakas of the world. But generally speaking, if all things were even, it would be a Salah cap. And I think in a week where I'm not completely sure on which one I prefer, I revert back to Salah because there's just more routes to points. He definitely stays on the pitch for the 90 minutes. And he just does tend to find a way as well. He's a very selfish player in the best way possible, and he does come alive in the late stages too. Whereas with Watkins, it's a little bit more stop-start. He's definitely capable of hauling as well. He's not a bad captaincy option. I put him in my captaincy video the other day. But out of the two, I think I slightly favour Salah. Let me know in the chat though who you're captaining. In fact, that's gonna be my first poll. Who are you captaining? Because it's a split pin this week. Right, so let me just get this together. Game week 2. So we've got so throw some options in the chat, by the way. So we've got Salah. We've definitely got Haaland in there, if you've got Haaland. We've got Saka in there. We've got, so those are the first three, and then we could put Palmer maybe. I mean, want to ideally do more than 4, but I think I can only put 4. Right, top, yeah, so we'll go Salah, Haaland, Saka probably, and then we'll have to put it, actually no, let's change Saka to Saka, or just Arsenal player. And we know what we mean there. Palmer, we'll change Palmer to other, and then please comment, because there's a few others in there. So we'll go with that for now. We'll see if there's any other write-ins that we want to change the poll for. Watkins is getting a bit of love, to be fair. Right, who else we got in the chat? Kieran's in the chat. Right, a couple of questions flying in. We've got a few now, so let's scroll back up because I got a bit carried away with that poll. So, do you think it's too early to take a -4 looking to switch Palmer to Haaland next week? Yeah, I would say that one can wait a week. I know Haaland's a great captaincy shout this week, and there is an aggressive play there. But I do still quite like the balance of Palmer with a 9 million or even a 7.5 over Haaland with a 5 or a 5.5. Unfortunately now, unless you've got money in the bank, of course, it isn't doable to go Watkins and Palmer like in my team to, well, I'll go to the transfers to show actually. So if I wanted, for example, to do Palmer and Watkins to, let's remove Watkins, to let's say Haaland with another, I've got 5.5. So ideally, that would have been Reinders, right? But I can't get Reinders. So I don't think it's worth a -4 for me. I would probably leave it another week. And look, if Haaland tees off again against Spurs, then people will flock to him then. Maybe some people even look at wildcarding, but I wouldn't panic too much. I think Palmer and Watkins, or whoever you've got in that forward spot, are capable of returning. You pick them for a reason. I'd leave it for a week, probably. Okay, what else have we got? God, the chat's moving so fast. That is great, by the way. Thank you so much. Great time to mention, by the way, if you could leave a like on the stream, that would be greatly appreciated, guys. It really would be very, very helpful. And especially subscribe. So I was, when I started, I think 36 away from 4,500. I'm now 32 away. If I could get to 4,500 subscribers today, that would be absolutely huge. So if you're watching along and you're not subscribed, I would massively appreciate it if you could do so. But of course, only if you're enjoying it. If you're not enjoying it, then don't subscribe. That is absolutely fine. But if you are, then please do. And of course, if you're not already in my mini league as well, the ticker above does have the code, so make sure you get involved in that. And do join club as well. Another fantasy game I'm playing this year. I'm actually second of like 100 people in my club mini league, so I'm actually doing a lot better on club than I am on FPL. So maybe that's the game. Maybe that's what I just need to be doing content on from now on. Maybe I'm just better at club. Anyway, if you're playing, join it via the links in the description. If you're not, then no worries. Okay, yeah, so good question. Best replacements for Frimpong. Let's go over to the static graphics. I've still got a few bits and bobs here to ask questions if we wanted to. Oh, did I not add it? I wonder if I can add it midstream. So I've got the press conferences. I'm going to try this midstream. I wonder if this actually works. Sorry, it can't be great viewing doing this halfway through. I do apologise. I think it's going to work. Right, okay, let's put it in that one here. Okay, right, well, let's see it. Let's see if that's been added. It has. Right, cool. So, some early team news for Game Week 2. Jeremy Frimpong, we're getting questions in the chat. Who's the best replacement? So, yeah, suffered a hamstring injury. He's going to be out until the end of the international break. That is Game Week 4. So, it's only 2 game weeks he's out for. So, arguably, there's an angle where you could possibly keep him if you've got a really strong squad, if you've got a strong bench. But I think it's also an opportunity, right? You can get to one of the Arsenal defenders pretty quickly. Gabriel is probably the standout there. You could also look at Munoz if you don't have him. Crystal Palace have some good fixtures coming on the horizon. Obviously, they're losing Eze, which is also on the graphic, which maybe makes Palace a little bit weaker, but Munoz will still tick over, still good defensively, got some good fixtures in the next 4, so I don't mind that. You could also look at a Murillo or any Nottingham Forest defender, to be honest, if you haven't already. But I have a suspicion that a lot of you will already have Forest coverage, so maybe that one is by the by. So yeah, probably Gabriel or maybe Munoz if you're looking at saving a bit of money. Look at future transfers as well to see whether you need an extra 0.5 at a later date. If that's the case, then maybe saving the money is a wise play there. But I think Gabriel's absolutely fine as a replacement. I think I saw someone in the chat mentioning Gabriel too. Is Saka worth captaining? Yes, I would say so. Probably a good opportunity to go back to the live screen quickly. You can see my Canva graphics there very briefly. Let's go over to Solio. So this is a tool that I'm really loving this year and I'm using. So I've partnered with them. They're not paying me. I just like using them. So I'm using them as much as possible. It plugs in like the market odds, the market data, and basically provides points predictions. So this game week, the top 4 or 5, Haaland, Saka, Gyökeres, Salah, Palmer, Bruno's up there as well. Gabriel's up there to reinforce my earlier point there. But to answer your question on whether Saka's worth captaining, absolutely he's worth captaining. He gets 90 minutes. He's playing a promoted side. They look good in Game Week 1, but still at home, a promoted side. His XGI goal involvement is very good generally. He might not have penalties, but he's still a great player. And in a 1 game week run, he's one of the best captains this week. So yeah, definitely worth captaining. Probably one of the standouts this week. If you've got Haaland though, then that's probably where I would go. Right, what's next? Looking at Arias in Game Week 3, yeah, I'd wait to see him starting. How many minutes did he get off the bench in Game Week 1? I think it was like 20? 17, yeah. So I would probably leave it for now, which, as you said, you are. So if he starts in Game Week 2, then yeah, you could look at him. He might be on penalties, potentially. We are getting some rumours on Strand Larsen, though. So if Strand Larsen goes, are they weaker generally? It would probably give Arias penalties. It might make his minutes a bit more secure, maybe. But generally, Wolves might become a worse side. But yeah, they've got a good run. They've Everton, Newcastle, Leeds, Spurs, Brighton, Sunderland, Burnley. It's a good run. So yeah, if he starts in Game Week 2, gets good minutes, then long term he could be a pick. What else we got in the chat? Would you bench boost this? Okay, Dubravka, Xhaka, Collins, and De Kalper. So we've got Dubravka, absolutely solid, probably the best bench boost keeper at 4 million. Xhaka, again, obviously you've got the head-to-head there, but I think that's fine. You're not going to have a perfect 15 with no head-to-head, so I think you can get away with that. Collins, away at Villa, it's a tough one, but he should get defcons. He's very good on the defcons. So yeah, you're maybe looking at a 4-pointer there, and maybe more if they're able to keep Villa quiet. De Kalper has Everton away. So yeah, it's not a bad week. I suppose because you've got such a strong bench though, my one question would be, have you mapped it out in future game weeks? Is there a stronger week for fixtures? Because you're going to have a strong bench boost most weeks with that 4, unless of course you've got a very a weakened player in your starting 11. Maybe you've got a Stev that you don't want to play most weeks. If that's the case, then this week, if it's usually those 4 on your bench, have a look at future weeks, just see if there's something that might suit a little bit better. But yeah, generally, I don't hate that at all. I think that's probably absolutely fine. What do I think of Ballard? I would leave it. I would not be buying Ballard this week. Every single season, there's a defender who gets a goal in game week 1, gets a 15-pointer with a clean sheet. This season, it's even more. It's a 17-pointer because he also hit DEFCON. I would take that with a massive pinch of salt. I would wait for much more information here. I know he's been bought by a lot of players, a lot of managers, and he might end up being really good. He might. But I'd like to see a lot more information on that. So I wouldn't be buying him now. I'd wait for some more info there. What else we got? Yeah, Joseph in the chat says 3 of my midfield. This is a very good point. I've tried not to moan too much about it, but 3 of my midfield got 11 defcons, missing the defcon bonus threshold by 1 point. So Bruno, Anderson, and I think Salah was up there as well. Did he get 11 defcons or was it 10? It was very close either way. I like that they've added it here, 10. So yeah, very close, very close. So yeah, could have ended up on a 6 more points. That would have been nice. Let's have a look at the poll. How's the poll doing? So, captaincy. We're looking... Salah's got a third of the vote. We've got other... so, a few people saying Palmer in the comments. Watkins as well. 21% on Arsenal. 19% on Haaland. I'm a little scared of Haaland this week, I'm not going to lie. Spurs fans, can you fill me with any sort of confidence there? Are they going to be able to keep it tight? Maybe. Discomfort. Thanks, Kieran. Pricey's thinking face is always great viewing. Well, at least one of my faces is good viewing, I suppose. That's good to know. I'll do a thinking face more often. Surely not another injury. Who are we looking at? Watkins won't be getting love when his injury news goes public, FYI. Oh, I'm not having speculation in the chat like that, Kieran. Come on. We need sources, we need witnesses, we need ironclad facts. We're not having a storm coming out of this stream saying Pricey says Watkins is injured. Not having that at all. We need to see some evidence of that. If it's true, then well, it might move me towards Gyökeres potentially, but I think I might look for other solutions. I don't think I'd be moving him on unless it's a major injury. He's got good fixtures to come. Right. I think it might be time for our first game of the day. We're half an hour in. In fact, I'm going to do it slightly differently today. I'm going to do all 3 games at once, so you have to answer all 3 questions at once. So I'm going to hide this, and we'll go into differentials in a moment. Let's go across. So each week, because it's not a deadline stream, we've got more time, we can have a bit more fun. I ask you 3 questions. Not really playing for much at the moment, other than Pride. But if the streams get popular and if you like it, I'll try and come up with a prize for it. So, round 1 is which kit is this? So I've picked out a kit from a club who play in the world. It's a 25-26 club, a club kit. The reason I say the world is it's not going to just be the Premier League. It will be around the world as well, to make it a little bit more difficult. So, round 1 is which kit is this? I will give a clue. It is a European side playing in the top tier of their respective country. Then after that, so yeah, comments in the chat on this. You've also got round 2. Which player is this? Accumulating 0.42 XG per 90, but no returns in game week 1. And then finally, which club is this? And this is a Premier League club. So 0.56 XGC conceded, 0.75 XG created. So we'll come back to this in a second, but we will wait for some answers to come in, and then I will provide the answers myself. So let's go back to, where's my side gone? Oh yeah, so yeah, my captaincy rankings for game week 2, worth noting. So I'm going with Haaland this week as the best captain, I think. Marginally, but I think. Saka's also up there. I've gone with Salah third. So I went with Salah last week, so I'm off the board with an 8-pointer. Hit rate of 1-to-1, so 100%. This will get more interesting as the season goes on, obviously. You can either be 100 or 0 at the moment. We've had the first correct answer in the chat for the kits. We also need the player and the club as well. I'll come back to that in a moment. What other questions have we got in the chat, guys? Any big ones? Should I just replace Wan-Bissaka with Richards now or wait until the deadline? I would probably... Who have West Ham got this week? Hang on. Let's go back to live screen so you can see what I'm doing. Who even do West Ham have for this? Oh, it's Chelsea, isn't it? Of course. Depends how strong your bench is, I suppose. I would probably try to wait if at all possible. Richards has a decent fixture, but it's not so good that you need to rip apart your side to get him. I would also generally advise that a free transfer is usually quite powerful if used in the correct way, and that doesn't seem like a high upside move to me at this point. So I'd probably wait unless you're really desperate to get to a Palace defender now, but I think you can probably hold off on that. What are your thoughts on Tielemans moving forward? I think it's still too early to say, Matt. It's tough because we just don't know who's on penalties yet. If Villa get a penalty in game week 2 and Watkins takes it, then Tielemans is kind of ruined as an asset to a certain extent. Not necessarily an immediate sell, but you would probably not want him as much long term. But if Villa don't get a penalty, then the question's still up in the air and he's still got that chance. It's like Schrodinger's penalty box, I suppose. Where we're waiting to see who gets the Villa penalty. If it's Tielemans at 6 million, he could be great value, but if it's not, he's not going to be that great. So I would wait for now, because we don't really have any more information on that yet. But once we do, then we'll be able to make an informed decision. Torn starting. So OP Talent says Torn starting Verbruggen or Dubravka. Verbruggen will have Everton away. They did look pretty blunt in game week 1. This is a good opportunity. I'm going to go over to Solio to help me out with this one. So we've got the clean sheet percentages for game week 2. So Verbruggen, 29% against Everton. Obviously, this is not the be-all and end-all. But then you've got Burnley at home to Sunderland with a 36% chance. Yeah, home fixture usually does get a bit of a bump. I think we underestimate the benefit of a home fixture. Yeah, I'd probably just about go, yeah, probably Dubravka, unless you've got a Stev starting as well. Like, I didn't read the rest of your message. So also, if Tosin is leaked to start, could bench boost with Verbruggen, Dubravka, Porro, Stev, Tosin. Hard to see another bench boost week at the moment. It is quite difficult to see another bench boost week yet, but we also will all get a wild card at some point in the first 19 game weeks. We'll also get 5 free transfers around game week 16. And you never know, you've got a pretty deep squad there. With 1 free transfer later on when you've been able to roll a few times, you might find a better opportunity. So I wouldn't lose hope on a bench boost just yet. I think because you've got GU in there, I would probably leave it. That's the logic I'm using as well. Because I want to see GU get at least some minutes before bench boosting with him. Hey Sam, on a free hit, would you take a gamble on any City picks other than the obvious 3? So Aït-Nouri, Reinders and Haaland. Good question. Good question. I mean, those would be the instinctive three I would go with. But would I take a gamble on any? Let's have a look at City's depth to remind me of who we've got to play with. I mean, Marmoush didn't start. This is horrible UI, isn't it, by the way? Not loving it. Yeah, I mean, there's always a risk with Lewis. Honestly, there's a risk with Ait Nouri as well, if they play the same system. I know that sounds insane, but given Gvardiol wasn't fit, I think there's at least a chance that if he is fit, he comes back in and plays the role that Ait Nouri played, which was effectively the left centre-back role for the majority of the game. So I'd be a little bit cautious on Ait Nouri, but generally he should start most weeks. Yeah, Reinders seems like an obvious one. I thought Bob was really impressive as well. I know that he was due to have a very big season last year, obviously got injured, but I think if you're on a free hit, he could be an interesting differential. I would imagine he starts. It looked like City really benefited from having the width. But you're right. I mean, it is such a gamble with anyone outside of the obvious three. So I think it's hard to recommend them. Doku maybe gets another start, but Marmoush is right there. Foden could come back in. Yeah, it's tough to advocate for any extras, to be honest. Possibly Ruben Diaz if you want that lock at centre back. I can't see him getting benched, but Spurs quite likely to score. So yeah, I think, yeah, those are the obvious three. I probably wouldn't veer too far away from them. Even Ait Nouri might be a bit of a risk. What do you think about Sarr as a Spurs pick? Well, I like him a lot more now that they're not getting Eze, I have to say. So we'll go over to Sarr. Is playing kind of in the 10. Decent XA in the first game week against Burnley. Didn't have any shots, though. I wouldn't be picking him this week away at Man City, but long term at 5 million, you can't really go wrong if he's getting 90 minutes a week. And if he's playing in that cam role, then all the better. So yeah, I don't dislike him. I wouldn't be buying him this week, but I also definitely wouldn't be too worried if I owned him, based on what we saw in game week 1. And yeah, the good game weeks are right around the corner. So yeah, not a bad pick whatsoever. Is it stupid to bench Forest defenders this week? Well, never stupid. Never call any of your decisions stupid. It's all down to opinion, isn't it? But Crystal Palace away, I mean, it depends who you've got, really. Like, if we go back to solely on the clean sheet odds, you could arguably bench your Forest players for Burnley players, Chelsea, Man City, Bournemouth as well, Man United even. Forest are halfway down the table, but Murillo gets decent defcon, and Williams has decent attacking threat. Milenkovic has decent attacking threat. So there's more to it than just the percentage of clean sheet likelihood. But there are quite a few clubs here that you might have players from that could do a little bit better. If it was like an Anderson at Fulham, I would say probably go with the Forest defenders. But yeah, I think they're fine to play, but there are also reasonable options to go with otherwise. So we had a question in the chat, worth taking NDI out for Reinders. A few people have answered correctly, by the way, before I answer that question. We'll go back to the static graphics. Hide, not that one, hide that one. So, quick reminder of these 3 questions. Which team is this? Premier League side. Those are my differentials. We'll come to that in a minute. Which player is this? And which kit is this? We got a few people getting this one right on the kit. Discomfort has gotten one of those right. So we'll go over to that in a minute. So this kit was well, actually, I'll remind you of all 3 here first. So we've got the player 0.42 XG in the first game, and the team. Pretty quiet game overall, not too much going on. Low XG, low XGC. So, I've had a few questions in the chat. The correct answers are, so Sunderland was the team, low XGC, but also relatively low XG in the first match. Maybe something to look out for in game week 2 to see whether they can beat that. The player was Strand Larson, so Kieran got that right in the chat. Well done, Kieran. No returns though. Decent XG per 90. And the team was Paris FC. So a couple of people got that right. Objectives, Matt got it right. I think someone else got it earlier as well. I can't see it that far back. If you did, I apologise, but I know someone else got it right as well. So yeah, well done for playing. Any of you that got those right? Let's go back to the main juice of the show. Considering benching Williams for Porro, I understand the logic. I really do. I would start the Nottingham Forest defender personally. If I go over to my team, that's what I'm doing. So I'm starting Murillo over Anderson and Porro. Porro was great for me last year up against Man City. I think he got a 15-pointer, clean sheet, goal, 4-0 win. So not bad whatsoever. So if you believe in that rolling over, then fair enough. However, the odds of a clean sheet are very low. He might get DEFCON playing in that role, and obviously backs against the wall a little bit more. So it's not like if I didn't have as much depth on my bench, I would be fine with starting him. I'd also be okay with bench boosting with him, to be honest. I wouldn't hate that. But starting him over Murillo, Tarkowski, or even Estev isn't for me. So I think the decision I had was, between these three. And if you look at the expected points, if you look at the DEFCON percentage, if you look at the clean sheet percentage, Estev came out ahead of Porro quite significantly, and Anderson as well in my team. Oh, Nixie was the other Paris guest. Thank you, Kieran. Well done, Nixie. I think you got a couple right last week as well, so well done. Sammy's back in the chat. Welcome back. No worries. You were missed, though. Thank you for rejoining. Defensive benching dilemma from FPL Gas. Do go follow him on social media, by the way. Currently starting Williams, Estev, and Porro, and benching Dorgu and Anderson. So we've gone down a slightly different route there. Very strong defensive 5. I suppose your 4 million having a good fixture helps this week. I mean, Dorgu away at Fulham, that is a hell of a problem to have. Did you bench boost in Game Week 1, Dan? Let me know in the chat, because honestly, that's pretty bench boostable. Like, if you've got a playing keeper and any sort of playing 8th attacker, that's a bench boost. I like all of them. But I would probably go, if it was me, Estev with Anderson and Williams, Porro and Dorgu to the bench for me. But it's tight. Those are all decent picks, despite the fixtures for Porro. In regards to Gaming City Powers earlier chat, my defenders are Reinildo, Wan-Bissaka, Van de Ven, Murillo, Anderson. That's why I want Richards. Fixtures are bad for the rest. Yeah, but the fixtures are only bad for 1 week, right? So I wouldn't worry. Transfers are pretty precious. There will come a point in a couple of game weeks' time where you're going to want triple Liverpool, probably, or you want to buy a more attacking Palace defender for their good fixtures. They've got a good couple of fixtures in a couple of game weeks. So I would say probably worth just like not perfecting your team every single week. Like you'll see a lot of managers trying to have the perfect team every single week, and transfers do catch up to you pretty quickly if you play that way. And after a while, you'll have to start taking hits for players that otherwise you would have been able to get to for free. And the upside of the previous transfer was less than the future transfer you could have made for free. So I would say, although it's not ideal to have some potential like less than ideal fixtures this week, long term, I think it's fine. So I wouldn't be making transfers just for 1 game week, put it that way. Yeah, Gaston, yeah, GUI puts me off, or GU puts me off as well, a little bit on the bench boost too. If we saw any minutes off the bench and I could have guaranteed a 1-pointer at least, that might have maybe swung me there a little bit, but no minutes is a bit concerning. So yeah, I'm with you on that one. I will probably wait myself. So a good opportunity, I think, maybe to go to FPL.team as well, because the potential or the power of future transfers is really important here. So a quick scroll over to Solio where I've got my my teams, or some of my teams for game week 2. So these are different pathways I can use, right? So if you wanted to do this, by the way, Solio is completely free. The link is in the description. The first 2 months are free, I think. So all of September's free as well. And it helps you with your planning. So for game week 2, if I was to optimize, I optimized this previously before the pod, and it's suggesting I make a move for Porro to Munoz. So that would maximize the points for this week. So currently I've got, this is how I'm running with it. So actually, no, it's not. I'm putting Sanchez in instead of Dubravka, and I'm benching Porro and Anderson. So not a bad bench boost. It would gain me about 10, 11 points on average, but not strong enough for me. But it's suggesting the optimal route might be bringing in Munoz for Porro. So that would gain me an extra 1.6 points. You can see in terms of the variance as well down at the bottom, it's got a little benefit there as well. It brings me a little bit closer to the crowd average, I suppose. And we can do this on an absolute basis as well instead of relative. So if I was to plug in that move to FPL.team as well, so if I do this very, very quickly, what was it? Munoz. So it'd give me probably this week and bench Murillo, which I don't dislike. But then down the line, I've got one less free transfer come game week 4. So then I've got a bit more of a situation where in game week 4, ideally, I would want to be getting another Liverpool attacker. Maybe that's Gakpo, maybe it's Wirtz. Let's say Wirtz for argument's sake against Burnley. And then I would also probably want to triple up on Liverpool. So maybe also looking at taking out a Tarkowski for a Van Dijk, just as an example. Oh, I think it'll be Virgil on here, yeah. However, that's only 2 of the 3 moves that I potentially would want to make this week. Maybe I also want a Palace attacker. So ideally, get to Mateta, get to Ismail Assar instead of Ndiaye. And I can't do all of those things because I've used a transfer a couple of weeks back. So it's worth mapping that sort of thing out because the power of future transfers does matter. FPL Hippies in the chat as well. Good to see you. Lots of love for Hippie in the chat. Love that. Absolutely love that. Blue Sky's a great place to chat FPL. I do still like it. Yeah, Eze, unsurprisingly, not in the Palace squad tonight. Thank you, Kieran. Yeah, that's pretty predictable, I suppose, from the transfer rumours from the past 24 hours. Not so much rumours anymore. I mean, it's definitely going through, isn't it? Yeah. So, yeah, he'll be going to Arsenal. I doubt he'll start in game week 2, but he looks like he could still be a decent long-term pick at 7.5 million. I mean, he'll lose free kicks. He'll lose some set pieces. He'll lose penalties or the share of penalties, you would think, as well. So it probably takes him down a couple of notches, but is that balanced out by the fact that he's also in a better team in terms of attacking numbers? So, yeah, let me know what you think in the chat to Eze, whether or not he's going to be a better pick at Arsenal or not. Let's go back to the static graphics. So it's time to have a look at my differentials for the week. We do this every single week. Do feel free to drop your 3 differentials. You can offer up 1 if you want. That's absolutely fine. But I'm going to go with 3 every single week. Those of you who watched the FPL therapy show, I was on it this week. Very, very honoured to be on it for a 3rd time. That's my hat trick. And Ross also got me to pick out 3 differentials for the game week. So I went with the same 3. I've gone with Evan Nilsson at home to Wolves, Rodgers away at Brentford, and Ødegaard at home to Leeds. Like last game week, I got 11 points. I think Gakpo was my returner. And Rodgers, yeah, Nixie in the chat asking, is Rodgers a differential? The way I'm classifying this is if they're under 10% owned, they're fine. They count as differentials. So it's a little bit cheeky, I will accept, because he doesn't feel like a differential. He is just under 10% owned, but I'm having it. And I've given myself those rules to play with. So if they're under 10%, you get over 90% gain from them. So Rodgers away at Brentford, He's locked in for minutes. He's a quality operator, and I don't see Villa playing half as badly as they did against Newcastle. I don't think Brentford are able to control the game in the way that Newcastle did. So all three of these I love for game week 2. If you're looking for like a 1 week punt, if you're free hitting, these would all be in my consideration. Erdegaard, Sammy in the chat said looked a different player on Sunday. I completely agree. I thought he looked very, very good compared to what he did towards the end of last season, where he was definitely playing with a little injury. I think Erdegaard could be an interesting pickup at some point this season. I'm not sure he's a great FPL pick consistently just yet, but we have seen in seasons past where he gets into a more advanced 8 role, sometimes even a 10 at times, and gets the shots away from around the edge of the box. I think we'll see a bit more of that from Erdegaard this year, and I'm expecting it to be a big year for him. So yeah, I'm pretty hot on him. 8 million. If you're looking for a differential, I don't hate that whatsoever. Evan Nilsson is probably my favourite of the 3 this week at home to Wolves. Wolves on the counter look pretty open. Evan Nilsson loves getting in and around the centre of the box. He doesn't really drop in too much. He is a big chance merchant, so I think he's going to get a few big chances, or at least a couple of big chances against Wolves. I think he's a good pick at 7 million this game week in particular. But yeah, let me know who your favourite differentials are for game week 2. I will be kind of playing against myself throughout the season to see how I do, checking my average score, and of course seeing which game weeks I do pretty well in. Got off to a fairly average start with 1 returner out of 3, Gakpo being that one. And hopefully this week I can beat my game week 1 score. So 11 points last week, hopefully more this week. Right then, so any other big questions in the chat? I think we've been going for nearly an hour now, so yeah, get your questions in. I will be going for dinner in the next 10-20 minutes, depending how many questions we get. But obviously always willing to hang around for a little bit longer if people are up and about for it. I think I'm pretty locked in for game week 2, to be honest. I don't think I'm going to be making a move. If that Watkins rumour that Kieran is violently spreading on this stream there is true, then that might make me have a look at a striker. Might make me look at a forward. But I'd like to get Reinders. I did play around with doing it for Ndiaye, but I'm going to give him another game week. I think if Ndiaye has a quiet game against Brighton and Reinders has an electric game against Spurs, then that would tempt me to just make the move ahead of game week 3 and just kind of correct the mistake at that point. And it also would give me 0.9, 0.8 million maybe if he rises again to play with in a future transfer as well. So it kind of, it's not ideal because I wanted to roll all the way through to game week 4, but I think if he's that good and he just looks unavoidable, then I'm willing to sacrifice a transfer for that. It gives me a little bit extra money for moves in game week 4 should I need it. So there are benefits to making that move, but I don't think this game week's the week to do it. I'm going to hold on Ndiaye. I picked him for a reason. He is on penalties. I'm hoping that it was just a bad day at the office against Leeds and they can correct it a little bit in game week 2. I was also very impressed with Anderson, by the way. I thought he had a great game. So yeah, I'm not too fussed about making a transfer unless there's a late injury. But honestly, even if there is a late injury, there's an argument to say, well, if Watkins isn't out long term, then get him back pretty soon. And you've got Sunderland, you've got Fulham, you've got Burnley in there. It's not a bad run. I'd probably be happy enough with him long term. If he's not injured long term, of course. But I mean, we've not heard anything concrete. So Anderson coming in or Porro, probably fine. I could probably still roll even if he is out. So don't think that's too bad. Captain is fairly set on Salah at this point. I think when in doubt, when it's a split pin, when you're not completely sure on there being a better pick. So Watkins, Palmer, both up there, but not out and out better in my view. So with that in mind, I think I revert to Salah in times like this. Captain is one thing you just don't want to get consistently wrong. It's so powerful. For me, all of the best FPL managers that I respect the most are so simple with their captaincy. They're so consistent with it because they don't take unnecessary risks. So I don't think Palmer or Watkins is an unnecessary risk, but Salah for me is probably the guy. Saw in the chat, thoughts on Rutter as a differential captain? Not for me personally. Everton are generally a pretty decent defence. He didn't take the penalty when he was on the pitch O'Reilly took the penalty, so he doesn't have penalties. He might not even play centre forward. He also might get taken off early if he does play centre forward. So I don't dislike him as a pick still. I still think he's okay to own. It's worth waiting and seeing before moving off of him. But for me, not a captaincy option I would personally be recommending. But always, and I must be like a broken record, but play it your way always. So if you like it and you've got a feeling on it, trust your gut. That's absolutely fine, but it's not something that I would personally recommend. Objectives Matt says Solio has Palmer ahead of Salah. They do. That is something that has been interesting to me. Although actually saying that, Matt, the markets have corrected. So it updates very, very regularly, which is also why I like Solio, because the markets are active and bookies are always acting, and obviously odds shift very, very fast due to news one way or the other. So maybe they've heard something that is swinging it back towards Salah. Obviously, if you've got an Arsenal asset, if you've got Haaland, that might be something that takes you towards them instead of Salah. In fact, to be honest, if I had Haaland, it would be on Haaland. If I had Saka or Gyökeres, I think I would be tempted to just put it on Saka or Gyökeres, whichever one I had. I think Gyökeres will get the penalties, but like Saka's still a good pick outright. I wouldn't worry too much. He'll still have set pieces. He's still going to have good goal threat. So I think if you had an Arsenal asset like Saka or Gyökeres, I think it's reasonable to be going against Salah in those with those two picks. Saka is ahead of Salah. Salah is now ahead of Palmer. Wonder why that is. I can't figure out what the reasoning is for that. Tosin is apparently back in training. One to keep an eye on. We don't have anything concrete on him, but apparently he's back in training. I know my podcast co-host on Who Got the Assist is relatively comfortable with Tosin at the moment, thinking he might start, but obviously it is a risk. Let's go back to, do I have it on here? Maybe. Oh no, it's on this one. My bad. Right. Yeah, so this is the injury news we've got, or the press conference news that I picked out. So Ezri Konsa's obviously out for a week. Jeremy Frimpong's out until the end of the international break. Eze's moving forward. And then Jorginho, the interesting one we've just had in the chat, you can replace him with Welbeck. You can start both. That means obviously Jorginho might drop in a little bit. It's all about balance, effectively. They're flexible. So I would be careful on Jorginho's minutes, and obviously he won't have penalties either. So yeah. Any other questions in the chat before we wrap up? Are we feeling like we're locked in ahead of Game Week 2? Let's do one last poll before I do go. Are you making a transfer for Game Week 2? Rolling. One transfer. A hit or chip active. Let's have a look at that. See what people are saying. We're all comfortable with Tosin. Yep. Oh dear. Got Salah, Haaland, Saka, Gyökeres, Wirtz. Whew. That's a lot of money. That is a lot of money. Who would I captain? Haaland. I'd captain Haaland. To be fair, I've been fairly strong on Haaland all week. Like if I had him, I'd be captaining him. Do I have the captaincy here? Yes, I do. So I do a captaincy video every week where I break it down for like 15 to 20 minutes. So if you want all the pros and cons of all of the main options, do feel free to go check that out. I can't link it live, but it's obviously one of the most recent videos on my channel. Yeah, so I broke down this and the previous slide with all of the pros and cons on, I think, the top 7 or 8. So these would be my top 7 or 8. Is it 8 this week? Haaland comes out top of the expected points. His expected goal projection or goal involvement projection is over 1 for this game week as well. Yeah, I just really like him for this week against Tottenham. Look, Tottenham are a better defense than they were last season, but I still feel like they'll find chances for him. I would be going with Haaland if I had all of them, but I don't, so I can't, unfortunately, which worries me slightly. Hopefully that answers your question. Hopefully, a lot of people rolling, 68% rolling, one transfer, no one on a hit yet. 5% have a chip active. Good to know. Good to know. We'll leave that open for a couple more minutes. So Daniel in the chat asks, hi Sam, thinking of transferring in Reinders for Ndiaye or Ndiaye. What do you think? Too knee-jerk? Well, it's something that I've been playing around with all week as well. So it's not a crazy move as far as I'm concerned. I prepared a slide on it for my transfer plans video earlier in the week. I think I also used it in my team selection. It was the transfer I was looking at making if I was going to make anything. I have decided to roll, I think, unless we get some sort of weird news that Ndiaye doesn't play for whatever reason, but obviously he should. I think if I see one more game week of Everton looking really poor going forward and Ndiaye just getting no chances, no shots, not involved in the attacking phases, then that would be enough for me to make the move. Also, if Reinders gets good minutes and looks involved as well. However, it is one game week and who knows? Maybe that was just a bad day at the office for Ndiaye and Everton. I picked him for a reason. He's on penalties. He should get good minutes. He's got good players around him as well. Another week with Jack Grealish in training might help them too. I put it this way. I don't think it's a bad move to make, but for me, I do value transfers very highly. And I know that there is a sort of an opportunity cost to making each transfer at this point because they are very precious. So a transfer used now on Ndiaye to Reinders might mean that I can't get to an extra or a third Liverpool player come game week 3 or game week 4, sorry. Same with Crystal Palace as well. So I need to measure out the upside for each transfer. I think there is potentially upside on this transfer, but I need more information first because if Ndiaye gets 90 and gets a penalty in game week 2 and looks pretty decent, then I'll regret making the move. Whereas Reinders is a new player. He might get rotated. Obviously, it's early days. He looks like a world beater, but I want one more game week to kind of get that hypothesis proven to me, I suppose. Hopefully that answers your question. Yeah, right. Yeah, okay. Daniel also says worried about rotation risk with Champions League coming up. Yeah, I am a little bit too. That starts, it's game week 5 into game week 6. It's around then. It's after the first international break anyway. So yeah, he might be okay for the first few, and then they've got so many good options. Cherky can play in that role. Foden can play in that role. Bernardo Silva can play in that role. He looks like a world beater. He looks amazing, but 90-minute man, we don't know yet. It could take a while to find that out. So I would personally probably roll. If I had like an Arias at the start of the week when we weren't priced out of it, I probably would have done it. What else we got? What else have we got? So, missed game week 1, planning to bench boost and then wildcard. Which player should I target? Can't make my mind up on defenders. Well, Arsenal are great for bench boost game week 1. So, like Everton, Burnley players great bench boost game week 1, game week 2, I suppose, if you're coming into it now. So Estev and Dubravka, I would highly recommend because it effectively enables everything else because they're so cheap. So you don't have to then have loads of money on your bench for the rest of the next few game weeks. You can have the cheapest bench possible, but also playing players with a good home fixture that you can bench boost with. So yeah, look at those two Burnley assets. Obviously look at Arsenal. Don't discard good players from good teams like your Salahs and your Haalands and all of that. Anderson, Reinders, both cheap assets. You might want to go with them so you can spend more money elsewhere. Defensively, yeah, you can't really go wrong with. Let's have a look. I'll go to my live screen. And where's the best place to look at fixtures? That's probably FPL.team. Bournemouth at home to Wolves, not a bad one at all. So Triffier might be a decent one to look at. Chelsea away at West Ham, also not bad clean sheet odds there. Arguably even, you could go with like 2 4.0 cheap defenders alongside Dubravka, and you could go with like Reinildo or something. Did he play? Actually, before I recommend him, did he play in Game Week 1? I didn't even notice Reinildo. I mean, it looks like he played. He did. So yeah, maybe Reinildo at 4. Then you've got like almost the cheapest possible bench, but one that will play, which is quite a like an interesting benefit to have. So hopefully that helps. Who to cap, Saka or Palmer? I would go Saka personally. He would be ahead of Palmer in my estimations, but that doesn't mean Palmer can't also haul. Obviously we're playing with odds here, so like Palmer could still be the one that scores the most points in the entire game week. I think if you played the game week 100 times, I would predict Saka comes out ahead more often than not, but Palmer's not a bad pick by any means. Who to start out of Estev, Porro, Richards, Juve, Williams? We had a similar one to this earlier, very similar. I would bench Juve against Chelsea, not a great fixture. And West Ham didn't look that impressive either. And then I would also bench Porro. I'm benching Porro anyway. Again, not to say he can't return, because of course he can, but it's a tough fixture. Clean sheet odds are very low. Estev's got DEFCON as well, potentially, and good clean sheet odds too. Richards, good defence, home fixture against Forest, and Williams, again, Crystal Palace. Obviously, they're head-to-head, they're playing each other, but who knows? Nil-nils can happen. So yeah, that's the way I'd probably go with it. I'd probably bench Juve and Porro if I was in your position. So, who would you start, Sells or Verbruggen? Good question. Sells or Verbruggen? So Sells away at Palace, Verbruggen away at Everton. Ooh. Probably before looking at Solio, and we will look at Solio on this, but I think I would naturally go with Verbruggen personally. I think Everton have looked a little bit flat up front so far, whereas Palace have a lot of firepower. So let's now give myself some confirmation bias, maybe. We'll go to goalkeepers. Just on the expected points for this game week, who's coming out on top? Sells comes out with 3.56. Verbruggen, 3.22, so behind. So Solio disagrees with me. But I think I'd go with Verbruggen, personally. But yeah, Solio disagrees with me. That will be because Forest are a superior defence, to be fair. So that makes sense. But yeah, you don't want to just be data. It needs to be vibes as well. Alf FPL. Pricey, what are you dressing your salads with at the moment? Yeah, a bit of balsamic. To be honest, it changes every single time. This is not what the stream wants to hear, I assume. But I'm big on the HelloFresh. So I tend to just dress it with whatever HelloFresh is telling me to dress it with. But yeah, no one really cares about that other than you. But yeah, feel free to DM me if you want my salad dressing tips. But yeah, it's mainly all HelloFresh stuff at the moment. So I just follow their guide. But it's very good. Not an ad, by the way. I wish I was sponsored by HelloFresh. That'd be great. Free HelloFresh boxes. If anyone's got a link up to Gusto, HelloFresh, any of that, I'm very keen for that. Yes, C-Max Spud. If Palmer blanks tomorrow night, his ownership plummets, is it worth transferring him out before a potential price drop? Maybe. Although what I would say is, however annoying it is, Palmer's price drop doesn't affect you getting to any other midfielders, because there's no other midfielder at 10.5. So the only reason I would rush to get him out before the price drop is if you've got a double move where you'd be priced out of the other player somewhere else. So like, for example, if you wanted to get across to Haaland and you're going to do a double swap from like a Watkins and a Palmer to a Haaland and an Anderson, if you were going to get priced out and you were absolutely certain on that, then that makes a bit more sense. Price drops are annoying, but I wouldn't let it be the be all and end all, and like really be sure that you want to transfer Palmer out before doing it just for the sake of the price drop. Like, know for certain that he's gone in your team, and don't let the decision be down to whether or not he drops in price, because a price drop is annoying, but it's not as annoying as getting rid of a player who then goes on and does really well. So make the decision first and then figure out whether or not it's worth making the move before the price drop after that. Have Kirkez thinking of bringing in Cucurella for the next few Chelsea fixtures. Would you wait on the transfer? I'd be tempted to make that move. Kirkez looks like he's going to get brought off early a fair bit. I'm not hot on Kirkez at the moment because Andy Robertson exists. Like, he will get minutes, and Slot is big on his like starters and finishers of matches. So I think Kirkez will be getting a few early subs every now and then, or maybe even not starting sometimes. So I would be tempted on that one, I have to say. It depends whether, like, map ahead, where are you using your free transfers on for the next few game weeks, if not on this? If you've got other higher upside moves that you can make later on, like bringing in triple Liverpool for game week 4, again, Palace that game week 2, maybe Man United in game week 3 for Burnley is a really good low-hanging fruit. Just make sure you're not putting yourself down a rabbit hole where you're using your transfers now and you maybe have to take a hit later on down the line if you use one now. But I do, on balance, I do quite like that move if you've got nothing else to use the transfers on. Yeah, so we've got 1 mil in the bank and thinking of buying Gyökeres for Bowen. What do you reckon? Tempting. Very tempting. I'd give Bowen another week, I think. Yeah, I would give Bowen another week, I think, because, I mean, let's have another look at Bowen's fixtures. I do like Gyökeres, don't get me wrong, but I'd also want another week of info on Gyökeres, to be honest. I know it's a great fixture, so it's very tempting to go early. But Bowen's fixtures aren't terrible, and he's the classic FPL grinder player where he just like ticks along every single week. Like, he'll get something, even in the tough fixtures, he'll get something. So I think Bowen he's never a bad own, whereas Gyökeres, I think we need to see more before being fully confident on him. But yeah, I would probably give it a week personally. But I don't hate it as a transfer. It's not like a bad move to make it, especially if you wanted to captain Gyökeres, then that makes sense. Okay. Sam, for the sake of it, could you predict all 10 games out of pure instinct? Oh, on the spot, that's tough to do. Do we want to see that? Maybe. I tell you what, from next week on, I will put together my predictions if there's interest. So let me know in the chat if there's interest in that, whether people actually want to see that. I will put together my predictions for the game week, like what the scores are going to be. This game week, I'm going to do it very, very quickly now. Very, very quickly, because I don't want to bore people. So, West Ham Chelsea, I will go 2-0 Chelsea. Man City Spurs, I will go 2-1 Man City. Bournemouth Wolves, 3-0 Bournemouth. I'm going to go bullish on that one. Bit of fun. Although I've got Strand Larsen. 3-1 Bournemouth. I want the Strand Larsen goal. Bit of bias there. Brentford Villa. I'm going to go 3-1 Villa win. Yeah, I want goals for Watkins. I'm trying not to make it biased on my team, but I do think Brentford will struggle in that one. I think Villa will come good. Burnley Sunderland. Bore draw 0-0 on that one. Hopefully for my Stev pick. We've got Arsenal Leeds. Leeds were competitive. I don't think Arsenal are going to get it all their own way. I'm actually going to go 1-0 Arsenal. I think they'll get it. I think they will win, but I don't think it will be as high scoring. I might be wrong, obviously. That is how it goes. But I don't think it will be a really high-scoring game. I think Leeds can defend. They're actually a very tight defence when they want to be. So, yeah. Yeah, I think Arsenal could just be a 1-0. Obviously, I also wouldn't be surprised because I do rate Saka and Gyökeres as captains. So, like, the variability of that game is quite high. There is upside on Arsenal picks. But I've just got a sneaky feeling that Leeds surprise us and keep it fairly tight in that one. But I still think Arsenal will grab it. Sunday fixtures, Palace, Nottingham Forest, I'm going to go 1-1. Everton, Brighton. I'm also going to go 1-1 on that one. Fulham, Man United. I am going to say, Fulham usually raise it against like the bigger, high-profile teams. I'm going to go 2-2 on that one. Draws all around on Sunday. I think Man United score a couple, but I think Fulham are competitive enough, especially at the Cottage. Yeah, I think 2-2 on that one. And Newcastle-Liverpool, that is a hell of a game after everything that's gone on this summer, by the way. I am very much looking forward to sitting down on Monday night and a bucket of popcorn, enjoying that one. That's going to be very, very fun. I will go with 3-2 Liverpool. Yeah, 3-2 Liverpool, although it could be 3-2 to Newcastle. I think Liverpool are able to break them down. It will be a tight, quite horrible game at times, but I still think there'll be goals in it. Yeah, 3-2 Liverpool. So those are my predictions for this week. Next week I'll try and do it in a more official way. But yeah, thank you for the suggestion. Right, I am going to wrap up the stream in a second because I think dinner will be ready very, very soon. Planning to roll my transfers until at least game week 4. Do you think it's a good idea? It's what I'm trying to do, Kyle. Like, obviously, situations can change, right? So I wouldn't just be stubborn about it. If you get injuries, if you get problems with your side, then I think it's absolutely fine to use a transfer. The situation can change. But ideally, I want to have 3 transfers in game week 4. Because it gives me a lot of flexibility to get across to another 2 Liverpool players if I want them, or extra Crystal Palace players who also have some good fixtures around then too. So that would be my logic. But yeah, it's a good idea if you can do it, but don't let it... each game week, weigh it up. See if there's a transfer that really is necessary. And if there's not, then try to roll. Like, I think that's a good way of playing in the first few game weeks. It's like, try to roll if possible, but if it's not, fine. Do you think Kudus could continue to perform? Yes, I do. I'm a big fan of Kudus, the player. I'm less sure on Kudus, the FPL pick. But that's not to say he can't do well. I think I'm a little less sure on him because he doesn't have penalties. He doesn't... Well, okay, penalties for a 6.5 million isn't a given. So it's just that there happen to be other 6.5s and 6 million assets who do have penalties. But his goal threat historically hasn't been that high, which again, we're starting to see already with Spurs. It's much more weighted towards assists. That's not to say he's a bad pick by any means, but I'd be wary that obviously the assists being high and the goals being low does maybe undermine him a little bit as an FPL asset, because you want that upside from goals, and there are goal scoring midfielders at that price point. So not a bad pick. I think he will continue to perform. Man City's not a great fixture, but he might play up front in a 2, a bit like Mbermo did at Brentford, obviously in the Thomas Frank system. So that could be one to look out for. If he gets a lot of action more centrally in the harder fixtures, then that might make him a better FPL pick generally as well. So keep an eye out for this week. This week is going to be really important for information on Spurs generally, but in particular Kudus. Right now, I like him, but not enough to pick him myself. And I'm just a little bit concerned he's going to be playing very wide and mainly just picking up assists rather than goal threat. But if he can also add goal threat, then I think that's absolutely fine. Nixie in the chat saying I'm too biased. Sorry. I am a Southampton fan though, so how much bias can I possibly be adding to the game when I'm predicting things this year? If anything, when Southampton were in the league, I was like anti-Southampton for FPL, so that affected me at times last year. I kept captaining players against us, and for some reason, those were the weeks that the players just did nothing. I remember Mateta, Palmer as well was an awful one, where somehow Chelsea accumulated like 5 XG or something and Palmer got nothing. It was ridiculous. Anyway, what's for dinner? I'm having a risotto tonight with some like bacon lardons in it. It's going to be really good. I'm very much looking forward to it. It's a great HelloFresh dinner. Hubert asks, where do you think Isak ends up after deadline day? I think there's a decent chance he just gets stuck at Newcastle. I would probably put it at like 40% Liverpool, 60% Newcastle, or maybe like 55% Newcastle and 5% mystery other team comes in for him. But I don't know where else that would be at this point. So yeah, I wouldn't be massively surprised to see him stay at Newcastle, or Liverpool still get him. I think there's been a lot of chat about Liverpool not really needing him, but I kind of disagree with that. They've just not got that depth there anymore. If Ekitike gets injured, there's not a lot there, so they will want another player to fight on multiple fronts, and they've wanted Isak for a while. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if they stump up the cash for him come deadline day after the Newcastle game's out of the way. But he could easily also end up at Newcastle. Right then, I think that is all she wrote for today. So to finish off with my team, before we wrap up, also Kieran in the chat, 1-0 Arsenal win, Ødegaard as a tip. I do like Ødegaard as a pick this week, as a differential. Predictions are tough though, aren't they? Like I'm predicting an Arsenal 1-0 win in the sense that like I can see it happening, but I can also see 5 other different scorelines happening. It's like I can also see it ending up 5-0. Like it really could be that kind of game. But I also see a universe in which Leeds keep it fairly tight. But all of these things are unknowns at this point, and Arsenal do have the upside. So yeah, don't let my prediction on a whim basically put you off anyone, because there are loads of variables, and that's why I don't tend to do predictions on here, because it does, like, there's a wide margin for error, like a wide margin for error even. Like I'm predicting loads of goals in the Newcastle Liverpool game, but would I be surprised if Newcastle stunk it up and made it really difficult for them? No. So like it's very hard to predict. Anyway, so we're going to wrap up the stream here with my team. I think I'm pretty locked in. Captain on Salah, Palmer vice, and rolling the transfer at time of recording. If Kieran, DM me your benching dilemma. I'll do it after I've eaten dinner. If after time of recording we get injury news on Watkins or whatever, then I might be tempted. Ndiaye maybe to Reinders, but I think I'm going to leave it now. And on that note, I am going to wrap up the stream, and I will see you all very soon. If I haven't answered your question, do drop it in the chat post-stream, like retype it, because the chat basically disappears after the stream. So put it in the stream, or put it on my team selection once I've come offline, and I will try and get back to you as quickly as possible. In the meantime, though, it's been a pleasure once again. I've gone on a lot longer than I thought I would again. But thank you all so much for joining. Always really appreciate it. And massive good luck in Game Week 2. Do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you can. I'd massively appreciate it. And I'll see you on Monday morning as we start looking at who to buy, who to transfer, all of that good stuff ahead of Game Week 2. For now, though, goodbye, and I'll see you